everyone, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads, and in this Better Beader episode, I'm going to go over a question that gets asked a ton, and it's how do I get started bead weaving? So we have the kind of how to get started when it comes to general beading, but when it comes to bead weaving, it can be a little bit overwhelming to say the least. So I'm kind of plugging a product. I'm not going to deny that. But the reason that I'm going to be talking about our beginner bead weaving kit is because we curated it to have a nice foundation for your beading supplies, the different stitches that you're going to get, and how to go in and kind of put everything into the mindset of organization as well as design and color palettes and stitches to learn. The first thing that you'll want to get started is a nice beading surface. A towel works, but honestly, when you go in with your needle and thread, which we'll talk about, it often gets stuck. This here is a simple bead mat, and we include this in our beginner beading kit, or I work on a bead on it board. It's a little bit more of an investment once you start to bead. If you like it, then you step up to there. The bead mat works out fine, and a little trick if you want to, you can even cut this bead mat in half, so you end up with 2 bead mats. Once you have your bead mat and your work surface ready to go, you want to make sure that it's kind of free of distractions. Mine gets terribly messy, so I'm not going to say to make sure that it's nice and clean, but you want to make sure that it's nice and organized. Some of the tools that I recommend to have in order to get started are going to be, and this again is bead weaving, so think thread and needle. You need your thread and you need your needles. So I recommend having 2 sizes of needles on hand. This is a size 12 beading needle, size 10 needle. The 10s and the 12s are going to be slightly different, with the 10s being a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. There are some instances where you don't need a size 12 needle and you can use a 10 with larger beads. Generally speaking, if you're using 15 OC beads, which are going to be the smallest size that you would get in this kit or that I recommend starting with, the size 12 needle is really reserved for when you're using those small little beads. You're also going to want some thread. There's tons of different thread options, and the one that I use the most is called Wildfire beading thread. The Wildfire thread, it's a thermally bonded thread that comes on a spool. You'll take that wire guard off, and you'll work with about 5 feet usually at a time. In most patterns, tutorials, we'll say to start with some thread and some needle, and 99% of the time, I'm talking about Wildfire at a size 10 needle. I'll reference it and say whether or not it's a size 12 in videos or actually in instructions. Now, obviously, there's 2 ways to work with the thread and get it off the spool. You can cut it using a nice pair of cutters like these slip and snip cutters, which work great for traveling because they often don't get detected. And then the other option is a thread zap or a thread burner. A thread zap or a thread burner is an awesome tool to get started because it will help you when you get to the end of your projects. What it does is you put a battery in, you press down, and this is going to heat up your thread and burn down the thread edge after you create a knot on the piece. It also creates this little bump, which helps so that way when you do create a knot on the thread, it does not come off as easily because it's not going to slide out of the loops that you made. So that's your thread burner. The other thing that I think is really important to have, and this is when you start getting into bigger beads, this is called a caliper. Now the caliper is going to help you find a measurement for your beads. So it has millimeters in here and inches on here. Some things in the bead world will be millimeters, some things will be inches. So this helps not only for the conversion, but to realize how much space you need. So you'll start realizing that, oh, I always have this extra little space on. That extra 1/4 of an inch, that's 4 11 OC beads. And you start to learn these habits. Also, this will expand and contract so you know what you have. Many people, when they get into bead weaving, you've already beaded, but you may have no idea what the size of something is because all you did was basic stringing with some cable and some crimp beads. This is going to help for your patterns that call for specific sizes to know what size your beads are. If you hold them out to the 10, that's going to be a 10 millimeter bead. Hold it there to the 5, that's a 5 millimeter bead, and so on and so forth. So that's going to help you know what size beads you need and what size beads you're using. These tools here, in my mind, are all really the essential things that you're going to need to get started. If you find that you have trouble threading your needle, you may also want to grab just a needle nose or a wide jaw pliers. I don't have these in the kit because I didn't think they were really essential. And most people going into bead weaving, you already have those pliers because you've already gone in and done some stringing and used the pliers maybe to do wire or earrings. It just needs to have a flat surface. It can be a wide jaw like this, a needle nose, a bent needle nose. It's just used and helpful to go in and squash down the ends of the thread in order to stick them into your needles. Once you have your needles, threads, all of your tools and everything ready to go, you need obviously some beads. So what beads do you get when you're starting bead weaving? In our bead weaving kit, now I'm gonna go through here and take these guys off here. I'll keep that out. We included the standard size beads. When I'm first getting beads and looking to get into the craft, maybe you may even think this if you're a crafter and do yarn, it's easiest to have some nice neutrals to work with. While these may not be the most exciting colors, you're gonna use them a ton. So whether or not you wanna do gold or pearl, silver, bronze, kind of that navy matches with everything, that denim color, some silver lined crystal. The smaller tubes are size 15 beads. These 15 OC beads are little tiny beads. They're pretty much the smallest that we get to. There's another smaller size. Don't worry about that right now. You're just learning. These are size 15 OC beads. These are size 11 OC beads right here. And these are size 8 OC beads. Now you can see in our beginner kit, we use a variety of colors to go, but they all match and they all work together. Many patterns you're gonna have are gonna call for these different sizes. You'll wanna have all sizes on hand when you go in and decide if you like beading. There's also another bead called a delica. We did not include that, and we don't have any patterns using the delicas. You can get into that and expand that knowledge on your own. From here, I have 4 tubes of 11 OC beads because that's gonna be the most popular size that is used in the beading world. I then have 2 nice neutral 8 O's and 2 nice neutral 15 OC beads. They have on them, when you're looking at them, some information. These are all Miyuki brand seed beads that the label says their size. It says their item number in case you want to order more from the website or check out more information about them. And then it has a number. This number on this particular product, this Duracoat Galvanized Silver, is 11-4201. That is the manufacturer color number, the 4201, starting with the size 11 OC beads. If you pick up your next 15O, 15-451. That's going to be the size 15 seed bead, and then 451. For the seed beads, as the number gets bigger, the beads get smaller. So 8s are the larger, then 11s, then 15s. There's also one size up, 6 OC beads, but not a ton of bead weaving projects call for that. After you have your building block basics, which are going to be these nice neutral seed beads, so even if you're not getting this kit, you're thinking about those neutral colors that you can always use in different projects. Nice neutrals, whites, creams, browns, golds, what you look at and what you see as your staple in your closet. After you get started and you learn the stitches, go wild. Go on the site, get some blues, get some purples, get some pinks and fuchsias, etc., etc. From here, after getting seed beads, many seed bead projects are also going to include and look for some beads. So what beads do we get started with? Alrighty. So the beads that we're getting started with to go along with the seed beads coincide, in my opinion, with some of the easier or better patterns to learn and get started with when you are getting into bead weaving. To start, we have some crystals here. These are 2mm round crystals, again in the crystal AB color. We have here some 6mm check glass beads and a nice blue AB because, again, it matches all of these. I have a navy or a cobalt Rivoli, and this is a 14mm Rivoli. This is a very common size. You've got 5 buttons, which work great as clasps, or 1 clasp alternative. In addition to those, you have some ear wires, because you may want to make necklaces or bracelets using those clasps, but you may also want to make some earrings. On hand as well, these little things are called wire guards. I'll reference them in different videos, but these are great for the ends of necklaces, bracelets, earrings, to make it hang down and look like a professional look. The other beads that we have here are going to be a multi-hold bead. These were our first multi-hold bead here that we produced at Potomac's, and these are the round duo bead. The reason I'm including and suggesting that you purchase some round duo beads, or maybe you want some super duo beads, they are a 2-hold bead, which makes it easier to learn some of the stitches. So what patterns to get started with? One of the patterns that we have included in the kit that I would recommend going first is the round duo peyote stitch. So whether or not which colors you use out of your round duos, you can use 3 different colors, do the nice neutrals if you want to. You can pop in that other darker color as well. And the round duo peyote gets you a start of peyote stitch, one of the most basic stitches. But when you're using a 2-hold bead like a round duo, it is much easier to follow and learn peyote stitch. Once you learn it with a 2-hold bead, the 1-hold bead will make a lot more sense, in my opinion. The tutorials then are great because you can look at this while also watching a video how to do it. So the great thing that we have is if you are learning a new craft like bead weaving, you want to go in and start creations, start what you're learning, where to start, it's a good idea to watch a video, whether or not it's one of ours or someone else's. Look on the videos, see what you like the look of, and usually at the beginning of the video, if it's one of mine, I'll say, all right, before you go in and conquer this bracelet project, you may want to already know peyote. Look at that basic peyote stitch and go from there. In addition to having the video then, which you'll have the links to on the back of the patterns, you can also have the written instructions. People learn both ways, and you have the opportunity to utilize and use both ways. So you can see how to do the peyote stitch with this multi-hold bead, which then you just omit a bead and use a 1-hold bead instead. So that's the round duo peyote stitch. Peyote is a really, really good fundamental stitch that a lot of people build on top of. From there, we have a couple other patterns that are included, and the next one is going to be brick stitch. So these brick stitch earrings, when you're looking at them, and the lovely Melissa made me my sample here, you'll notice also on the patterns that some of the colors vary from your kit. That's because we're just including building blocks, and I would recommend just getting neutral building blocks if you're just getting started. From there then, go in and change up the colors, spice it up, and make it what you want. Think of this more as your introduction to these beads and beading. This is going to be your brick stitch earrings. So it teaches you how to do brick stitch, how to finish off and use those wire guards, and then also how to do this little fringe, another added step, and an added stitch to learn as you're creating. You can then add your ear wires on here and go along in this. In our basic beading, seed beading kit here that I'm kind of pulling from, I have a cover letter that tells you exactly kind of what to get started and why I chose these specific patterns in this order. Next from there, another stitch, which is going to be a netting, is called a Russian spiral. The Russian spiral, once you learn it, you can do it with all different beads. You can do it with cubes. You can do it with seed beads. You can do it with larger crystals and really go to town. But again, we're just getting started. So this pattern here is going to call for 8 seed beads and some 15 seed beads. So that's 2 other supplies here. And you can see that nice neutral one here made with the colors from the kit is going to be that bronze and that nice kind of creamy color there. Interior here, you have this nice example showing, and then if you need it, the video to go along with it. This is a netting and another common stitch. From here, you may want to learn how to do bezeling. So we had the crystal, and bezeling sometimes can be a little bit tricky and a little bit hard for people to learn. Bezeling with a round duo bead in this nice netted fashion, super fast and easy. So you learn how to make a really cool pendant and learn that technique. So you've already done a bracelet, pair of earrings, the Russian spiral sometimes is a nice necklace, and here's a little pendant to go along with it. So the pendant here uses the round duos as well. You'll have plenty left over to go in and make a pendant with your Rivoli and create that nice netted pattern. One of the final stitches that I have you learning, and also keep in mind there's another stitch called herringbone, you can get into that too, these are just nice basic ideas, is going to be right angle weave. You have everything in here to make this check glass tennis bracelet. So this includes the 6mm beads, and you're going to learn the right angle weave how to make little boxes. This right angle weave is nice because it uses more than one bead in each side of the little box that you've created. At any time in the creation of this bracelet, you can stop. So you can learn the right angle weave and just have it nice and open. You can embellish the right angle weave by adding the 6mm bead on top. And then if you want to, you can further embellish by adding some of the little 2mm crystals that you have as the fringe. Many of these pieces that we included in this beginner beader set have opportunities in them when you're watching the video, reading the instructions, checking them out, to stop where you are or to continue on. We hope with this that it really is the foundation and kind of the building block as far as what to include in your beginning beader kit. Now you might want something to organize all of these beads in. You may want, to have some glue handy if you're a glue lover. And I know that many of you will comment below and say the perfect stitches, the perfect videos, the perfect ideas to get started with. The great thing about this beading community is that it's awesome and you guys really do contribute and help new people into this craft and the awesome world of bead weaving. If you've never done bead weaving before, never fear. You also can contact us, ask any questions, or go through on Facebook, on YouTube, and watch all the Better Beader episodes. That's also in that introductory kit sheet if you happen to get your beginner bead weaving kit from us. Remember to give a little thumbs up, and if you are new, to subscribe to get regular updates from us here at Potomac Beads, as well as daily videos to help you create and to learn along the way. We don't want you to be overwhelmed. We want you to have a nice starting spot. We don't want you to think too far about your colors, about your selections, or what patterns you're going to do. Once you learn these basics and have these basic tools as well as basic beads, you can expand and shop for all different items and reuse these in all kinds of creative ways that you never thought you could. Bead weaving is awesome, it's relaxing, and it's a really fun challenge for some people to get started. Hopefully you enjoyed this Better Beader episode, which is really helping people to not feel intimidated about the craft of bead weaving. If you're a basic stringer and you want to get involved in bead weaving, this is a perfect place to start. You don't need to actually purchase this kit that I'm talking about. I just wanted to go over why things were included so you're able to look at it in depth and see why the products were chosen and what you may want to add or to purchase, or look around and see you may already have it to get started on your next craft and your next jewelry making skill of bead weaving. As always, again, these Better Beader episodes are meant to make you a better beader. Even if you're a seasoned beader, hopefully you learned something, or you thought about ideas, or maybe you even saw the pattern that you love, or beads that you have that are still sitting around that you think, oh, I can do that with it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the new art of bead weaving and comment below to help out the community. Thanks so much and happy beading.